Hello, everyone. I'm Georgia. Welcome back to Tea Breaks, which is a series where we talk to our experts on the Tea at Sunrise network about next generation solar and transforming energy access. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Anne Wacera Wambugu, who is an electrical engineer based at Strathmore University. She's also involved in the electricity sector research for Strathmore's UNESCO chair. It's UNESCO Chair in Climate Change Resilience and Sustainability. And then on top of all that, she's also the founder and CTO of company Sunsafe. So we'll hear a little bit more about that later on. We've also both got our tea here ready. So tea breaks. So welcome, Anne. And to begin with, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and your area of expertise?
So I am an electrical engineer, as said. My research focuses on electricity systems. So I think I have spent most of my time looking at solar, but then I realized at some point that it was important for me to start venturing into the grid because there's issues related to the grid and electricity access. My work is focused on access. I think I'm going to speak about why in a second, which is getting people electricity to do the things that they want to do. So my work is very user-centric. Less, I'd say the comparison, the other side of it is having it be generation-centric, which is what the people who are supplying the electricity. So I tend to look at what the users and whether it's SMEs or households or retailers, whoever it is that is on the usage end of whether it's solar or the grid, how they're experiencing electricity and how they're using electricity and the challenges that they're having.
Okay, so what first kind of attracted you to working in this area of electricity access and user-focused kind of stuff?
My life. So I grew up in Western Kenya, and actually ended up being an electrical engineer because I was very curious why we did not have electricity at home. But right now, looking back, I guess it was also like a question of why are we not installing solar? Because at the time solar had started picking up, and I was like, why, like solar seems very simple. Why are we installing solar? So it's a personal. My journey as an electrical engineer is very personal. Sometimes that's a problem because sometimes I get stuck in, users and, the user experience and something. And someone will be like, well, we can't finance that. But in my head, I'm like, why are we not financing reasonable things for users? So it's sometimes I run into problems because my head is very much at the space of serving the communities and similar communities to the one that I came from. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that's a very strong motivation then to keep you going as well.
Yeah. Yes. And again, it does get me into a bit of trouble because I will keep going, like that's my anchor. I keep
Yeah.
going back to it. And yeah, so the people I work with though, I'm very happy that first of all, people like, the team at Tea at Sunrise, and other people that I interact with on the regular, they seem to understand that this is a huge motivation for me. And I'm glad to be part of that network because it helps with acceptance, so to say, of this different vantage point that I bring. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's really important to have these different perspectives involved in the network. So amazing. So I mentioned that you're involved with the UNESCO chair at Strathmore. Has being
Yes.
a part of this chair helped you and your team kind of advance your efforts in the area of electricity access? And if so, how?
So the chair is climate change, resilience, and sustainability. So our work did start fast, but the chair kind of consolidated the electricity stuff in somewhere. So the chair is kind of right now it's grouped into different research groups, and the research group I lead is specifically around electricity. So if I was to say, part of what it did was structure us, give us a home. Second, it's the UNESCO chair network is nice to have. So like there's other chairs in other places, for example, the Swansea UNESCO chair. And I think it gives you, it's kind of like a community. So that communal nature of the chairs is nice because you go to, like, I'll leave Strathmore, I'll go somewhere else, and I'll be part of this chair, and someone else will be a chair there, and then we'll end up having a conversation because of the chair specifically, doing stuff together because of the chair. So it's a nice network. It's a good structure to have, and also it's a good name, a good brand to also just like be associated with, so to say.
Yeah, great. Okay, so moving on to your company, Sunsafe now. Could you tell me a little bit more about what it's trying to achieve?
Okay, so I'm going to start with how Sunsafe came about. So when I joined the sector, which is sometime in 2016, I graduated in 2014, worked for the government in 2015, decided that's not for me. Then moved into research. So at the time, I was trying to figure out quality issues in the ecosystem. And I think there's this story I tell, which is I went home. So home is in Western Kenya. It's quite a distance from here. So I went home. One of our neighbors called me and they said, I have a problem with my solar. It doesn't, like I watch a football match and then the thing goes off in the evening and it's been charging the whole day. Then I went and looked at the system. The battery was a car battery, not a solar battery. And I think this is the point where things started contrasting because I would go home and find all this, sorry to say, chaos on solar, when it comes to solar products. And then I'd come back to Nairobi and be in these fancy workshops. And then in 2018, I would be flying out to different countries, speaking about solar in the UK, in whatever, like completely removed from the realities of what we were speaking about. In 2018, I was doing a lot of work on standards, IEC. So I met this old man called Chris Moller. He had just retired from his electrical engineering profession, lives in Cambridge. So he told me about a QR code system that he had put together. So the QR code system is supposed to carry electrical, information. And I sat there and I thought, and I was like, wait, if I can place the QR code onto every electrical component, I can build an app that carries the mathematical components of this work, of sizing, so that all someone needs to do is scan the QR code, say which component they're scanning, and even that information on which component they're scanning is in there. And they would get a recommendation on the different sizes of products that they should use. And that's how Sunsafe started. So Sunsafe started in 2019 in a bar in South Korea. But we start fundraising seriously in 2021. So we tried Energy Catalyst twice, and then we got it finally in 2022. So what Sunsafe is a sizing tool. So right now we are appending QR codes at the retailer level, but we're hoping to work with like distributors to append QR codes so that people can just scan the products. So that's number one. There's also we're hoping to put find a technician near you, because that's finding technicians is really hard in rural areas.
Oh, cool. It sounds like actually quite a simple solution, really. Which I guess is why it should work.
Yeah. No, we thought about it. I was like, someone has done this. This is so simple.
Yeah.
Someone must have done this.
Yeah.
And then we checked, and the closest we found was NREL. That's the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in the US.
Okay.
They have a sizing tool, but you have to enter kilowatt hours because you're not entering the power consumption at the component level. You're entering aggregated power consumption. So the assumption with such systems, the higher level systems, is that someone actually has knowledge to be able to do that. No one. So what we're doing is we're moving it from there and bringing it way further down, where you might even just need to scan a QR code and that's it to actually get the proper size of a solar system.
Yeah. So is this aimed more at people who just like individuals or business owners who might want to install their own solar systems? Is that the...
So the aim here is, so because it's a regulated environment, so electrical systems in Kenya are heavily regulated. So we're hoping to actually put this up in the hands of qualified technicians.
Okay.
And then households can find them. So
Yeah.
our biggest job right now is to train technicians in rural areas that then we can point households to.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. So how can we improve the inclusion of women in the renewable energy sector?
Inclusion of women. So number one, attracting women into engineering and a lot of engineering spaces is not the hard part. What I've found is retention is the toughest bit. I'll say this as someone who's supervised a lot of women. There are a lot of dynamics that women have to overcome, so to say. And there's an assumption, there's like this assumption of, first of all, women can't work well together. And people will actually tell you that, right? Women do not work well together, just wait until. And I think that those stories have been told so much that some of the people that you meet in the ecosystem have actually bought into that. There are narratives that have been sold to women that need to be undone, number one. Because what I've found is that the people who give women opportunities are fellow women. Second is, now I'm going to talk about like externally what I've seen. We have had a lot of instances. So I do a lot of mentorship here and there. I don't even know if I find time for that, but every now and then a young person will approach me and I'll spend some time talking to them. You come see me. The first thing I ask you is, where are you spending most of your free time? Like, whose work are you doing that you should not be doing? Because women do that a lot. Because there's a man who'll slack and you will run very fast to fix the situation for him. Can you take that time and use it for yourself instead? Can you take that time and use it maybe to go for a workshop that improves your career or something like that? So stop picking up the slack at your workplace, because a lot of times you don't get rewarded for it. And start seeing how you can use that extra time to improve yourself on the side. It's completely okay to pick up slack at a workplace that you think you'll be rewarded, but a lot of places don't reward female engineers for being the helpers. The way women exist in the ecosystem is complex, and we need to actually look at things that what people have taught young girls to do, right? You've been taught to be like this, to be like that, and point out to them how that is probably impacting the ability to move ahead. And that part of it requires being, and as I tell everyone, very okay with being disliked. It's part of being a successful woman in anything. You just have to be comfortable with being disliked. There's a way we teach women to exist in society, and then those things come and like work against them in workplaces. And then when we try to change, when women try to change, they become all the terrible words, the B word, the whatever, like, you don't even talk to her, she's a terrible person. But in reality, that change, like, you do actually need to switch to succeed. So maybe workplace dynamics is the term for it or something, but yeah.
Cool. And then the next one is about, so the T in T at Sunrise stands for Transforming Energy Access. And what role do you think these sort of off-grid solar systems can play in transforming energy access in Kenya?
So I'm going to start somewhere, just a bit far. Again, I like stories.
That's fine. Start the start.
Yeah, good way of explaining context sometimes. What do we need electricity for? And I think I had to go back there and ask myself that question after. Remember, for me, context, like the context that I have is I live in a very different world from the one I grew up in. And every time I am in some fancy country, sitting in a fancy workshop, I always ask myself, why are we here? And try and like contextualize it based on my upbringing and my life. The reason we need electricity is so that people have electricity availability, number one, and electricity sufficiency. So you need electricity available when you need it, and you need it to be sufficient to power what you need it to power. So what does that look like on the continent, or in Kenya? So say I have a friend who's a pediatric surgeon, and she's operating, like actually right now as we speak, she's at a medical camp, and I think they're doing operation of 6 kids per day. If electricity disappears in the middle of that camp, a lot of things can go wrong. She has all kinds of horror stories, using torches to finish up an operation and stuff like that. So that's what we want electricity for. We need a surgeon to have consistent electricity. We need a mom to be able to cook for her kids in the morning. We need a farmer to be able to pump water out of, groundwater. We need all these different things done. And that should be the vantage point of anything that we do, the people that we're serving. And every now and then, I feel like we've lost vision of that part. We've lost vision of the reasons why we're doing electricity access. We've been so many places talking to so many different people, and the mid-level systems are where a good chunk of us should be focusing, because that's where my pediatric surgeon friend gets electricity to power, the surgery for the surgery component of her work. So the government is installing mini grids. It's doing commercial and industrial systems. The government is doing COSAP, where they're financing the small systems that are doing lighting, TVs, and then there's this midsection. I don't have any issues with household electrification, but I think we need to have a larger conversation about financing people's businesses. Just with the same level of ease as we're financing, as we're financing household solar. There's this term that's used on Twitter. Kenyans are still on X. Tree huggers. So it's a term to describe people who only describe the energy ecosystem using carbon.
Okay.
And this is to say, whenever you go to say we need to install a coal plant, suddenly tree huggers show up and say solar. The problem is not the solar. The problem is the capacity of solar to do the other thing. I said there's 2 things: availability and sufficiency. The capacity of solar to serve the sufficiency bit. And because we are focusing on the smaller systems, or on the larger systems, so both of them have very big disadvantages. The smaller systems cannot really do much in terms of work, like you besides lighting and the few things. The larger systems, especially the ones that feed into the grid, without a certain level of let's say base load, they kind of end up sometimes destabilizing the grid, right? The sweet spot is this middle point, but like I said, there's very little focus on that middle point. So there's a generation of engineers and people who will be the next influential politicians or whatever in the next 20 years, who are growing up seeing solar as not a good alternative, because we've decided to focus on the wrong ends. Not wrong in that they're not needed, but we've poured our money all on these 2 sides and then concentrated on the carbon message rather than the energy sufficiency and availability message. And that's losing a lot of people.
Yeah, I can see if solar's not meeting people's needs, then they're not going to be in favor of it for much longer, are they? So
yes,
gotta find a way around that.
That's the biggest concern. That's what I'm hoping we can do with Rich. I think part of our is to show, number one, we can do local manufacturing. I'm really hoping that part goes through, but also just to look at the challenges of solar right now, and document them. Look, we can use solar at scale, but these are the challenges that we're experiencing right now. And these challenges can be solved in this and this and this way.
So, anything else that you'd like to say about what you hope to see achieved through Tea at Sunrise?
I think Tea at Sunrise right now is heavy on solar, right? And the solar component. We need to add the battery conversation, because solar and battery for us now, the people who are using the products, go hand in hand, right? So the other thing I was telling Mark is, because everyone says batteries are becoming very cheap. So when you tell me batteries are getting cheaper, what you're saying is we're going to be sacrificing Congo for a while now. We're not buying it. So for us, there's a humanitarian problem right next to our doorstep, and the rest of the world can remove itself from it. We can't, because both for humanitarian reasons, but also for the stability of the Eastern African region, the idea that we can just keep mining from Congo and build more batteries and make them cheaper, and then they get shipped back to Kenya so that, you understand? Because, so I would like to see grid-scale sodium-ion batteries become very, very commonplace, because that's our hope to reduce the, humanitarian crisis that we have here. There's a lot more young Africans and millennials who think like me, and more extreme, which is we need 5 coal plants. There's those ones. And those people are going to have that microphone. They're going to be handed microphone by age, because as our parents age out, my parents are retiring now, we're the ones taking up the leadership of the continent. So this is not an advocacy for people to come and force people to change their minds. I'd like us to change people's minds by virtue of actions. Let them see that solar is actually working, and that actually changes their mind.
No, that's really good points. Thanks, Anne. Thanks very much. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's, good to have you on board.